Thank you, Praveen, for inviting us and all our co-panelists. Looking forward to this conversation. It is obviously the toughest session to be had post-lunch, never easy. No pressure, panelists, but definitely the topic is extremely relevant. Agriculture is a large part of our GDP, but more importantly, a large part of employment generation in the country. In the coming years, as we have to feed a growing population, becoming more productive is the need of the hour. At the same time, the resources or the inputs are becoming stressed. 30% of our districts are water stressed. A lot of our soil doesn't have all the crucial inputs, be it NPK, and hence using digital to become more productive and become more sustainable becomes all the more relevant. So with that as the context, looking forward to this conversation this afternoon, along with my panelists who, as you can hear from the introduction, have deep expertise on the topic. So with that, maybe I'll get us started. A few questions and then open it up for the audience towards the end. So the first question, with a lot of buzzwords, you have AI, you have IoT, you have data analytics, a lot of it being used in many different industries. The question for Nyati is, how does that impact and how does that get adopted in the context of agri-businesses, farmers, and how can that drive productivity and long-term sustainability in your opinion?
Thank you. Before I answer that question, I would quickly give an introduction. Hi, I'm Vanshika. I am here to represent PRYM Group. At PRYM, we're working across drones, training, precision agriculture to make agriculture actually viable for farmers in rural India. Now, to answer the question about AI, IoT, and how data eventually helps a farmer to increase productivity and sustainability, I think more than that, one of the most important thing is that even if people are working in AI, the most important layer is the translation layer. With working over 4 lakh farmers in Maharashtra, what we've realized is how much AI, IoT, and data has created an impact. I would like to simply break that into 3 parts, which is precision, predictability, and profitability, which eventually matter in the end. So when I talk about precision, how IoT and AI intelligence helps with precision, drones for instance, so we work in drones, we have a drone manufacturing company and we also do drone as a service. What we realized with drones was that with using drones for spraying at a farmland, you can understand the micro level recommendations and eventually something which manual spraying does not tell you. So that's what we realized with that, and a combination of IoT and AI. While whatever data we get from IoT, and then we train our AI models into that, the kind of data-driven decisions that it actually gives back to us is what a farmer would actually want to rely to. Because farmers usually work on reactive farming and their gut feelings. But what now we want to move on to my second point is about predictability. We're working on modules like pest detection, pest and disease alerts, weather forecasting, and that's when a farmer is alerted and they're aware about a decision to be made. So if I would like to put it all together, IoT creates data, data creates intelligence, and AI can transform that intelligence into timely actions, and eventually those timely actions can drive proper sustainability and productivity.
Thank you, Vanshika, for those opening remarks. Merin, maybe if you want to add a bit more to that.
Sure, thank you. So first of all, I would like to thank Indian Chemical News team for giving me this opportunity to come here and amongst distinguished leaders and experts of the agriculture industry. So to answer that question, I would like to say that as I look into the future of agriculture, I feel that digital technologies, especially IoTs, sensors, drones, remote sensing technologies, irrigation technologies, all these, technologies have a strong leap in this industry. Because, if I break these into subsections, so like Vanshika mentioned, these technologies focus into precision agriculture. Then we have, data-driven decision making. Then we talk about sustainability. So these major points are something which the industry currently is working upon. And like when we see that globally, China, US are are the leading countries which are, working tremendously in the agriculture, agri-tech sector. So currently, like India lags a little bit behind them, but I know like we are on track and we'll be there. So talking about precision and efficiency for agri-tech, for the technologies that are there in the market, we have that kind of implications where with the use of technology we can monitor how much level of problems that are currently on the farms. For example, like we can assess at the real time data for the growth of the crop, for the pest management, for the irrigation system. So when we, collect these, gather using these technologies, like manual labor is a very tiresome and it would take a lot of time. But when we use these technologies, we can get real-time data. That is, whenever that problem occurs, we can track down the data at that moment of time. So using of these technologies can, save a lot of time and also save a lot of damage that will be happening. So if we can figure out earlier that, okay, the crop cycle is going to be damaged because of some pest or something, we can, treat it accordingly. Secondly, coming to the data-driven decision, I feel that, we have a lot of capability of collecting data on the farm level. And farmers have a lot of data. They are data rich, but information poor. So it is up to us as agribusiness leaders how we convert these data collected by the farmers into actionable insights and provide them with clear information that, okay, this much would be the yield benefit if you move into such technologies, and this much would be the benefits overall on the input cost and about the lesser emissions using these practices. So this is something we'll have to look upon. And also, like coming to my third point, which is sustainability. So when we use these technologies, the input that is used on the farm level would be, lesser amount, because we'll be knowing that, okay, this farm level, for example, will need only this much amount of AgroChem application, this much level of fertilizer. So in that way, we'll know the exact amount, okay, only a certain amount of quantity is required. So we'll have a reduction for the cost as well as the emission.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Merin. Both the speakers alluded to this, the fact that there is a lot of data available. How do we start converting that into insights for the farmer becomes super important. One of the things we've seen is a lot of agrochem companies talk about drone services, things like that. So my next question is, what role do drones, remote sensing, play in creating more precise, efficient and sustainable farming systems? Tajender, if you would want to comment on that, that would be helpful.
Hello everyone. So first of all, I would like to thank ICN for inviting me here for AgroChem Summit 2025. And I would also like to thank panelists. And I welcome all the delegates here. So now coming to the question, how drones are means giving benefit to the farmers and how AI and precision farming helping the farmers. So as said, digital agriculture means creating database through the IoTs, and then intelligence comes into role. It will help to suggest farmer or guide farmer ki how to use the data, and accordingly advisory came into to provide information to the farmer that this is the right approach of using agrochemical. This is the right molecule, how much quantity should be given. And if we come to the another part, the application, then drones came into existence. And through this AI, these drones map the disease, identify the nutrition deficiency in the crop, and give the data that this is the coming disease which can come in a week or in the coming days. And this is the nutrition deficiency which has been seen in the crop. So the drone will help the precise application of the nutrition and the agrochemical in the crop, so that it will reduce the input cost and also give the proper usage of agrochemicals and nutrition and fertilizers. Yeah.
Perfect. So what I hear you say, Tajender, is the data gets collected, drones are a means to aggregate some of the data and provide that insight to the farmers, which allows them to make better decisions. Merin, anything more you would want to add to that?
Sure, thank you. So basically, from my understanding, drones give pinpoint accuracy of, the data that is available on the farm level. So if I talk more about, other than precision farming, so even we get to know that, like every drop of water that is applied, every kilogram of fertilizer that is applied, and every application of agrochemical that is going to be applied, that level of data is what, integrating a drone system we can acquire from that. I know that initially it will be very challenging to convince the farmers to transition into, using these kind of technologies, because the initial cost is too high, and there are stringent laws in India, from what I understand, regulatory practices. But if we can convince them, and if, these are integrated, for the short term, definitely there will be a lot of cost. But for a long term, when we are, foreseeing a lot of climate change that is going to happen, and also with the varied weather conditions which are currently, like there is lack of rainfall and all these conditions. So that kind of data can be, captured through integrating of drones, or whether be it all the, digital technologies.
Thanks, Merin. And you raise a very important point, the point around getting farmers to start adopting these technologies. There is obviously a cost element to it. There's also a bit of education. So my next question is, what role can government and corporate play in creating this education, creating the capacities at the grassroots level, so that farmers start adopting what, clearly will help them become more efficient, more productive? Mr. Harish, if you could please provide some insights on that, that would be helpful.
Good afternoon. Thanks a lot for inviting me here. I personally feel that the first point to be discussed and to be noted is that the Indian farmer today, I've been seeing them for the last 30, 40 years, even more, there's been a big transformation. The concept and the perception that we carry, that farmer is not knowledgeable, is slightly illiterate, doesn't accept technology, is to be demolished from your minds. Today's farmer in every state, I've been to almost all the states, in spite of language barrier, I feel that the farmer today is much more educated and much more receptive. So I think we should start with these premises that whatever we launch, whether it's a chemical or use of drone or digital technology, he would be there, because next generation has also come in the field. His father was 60, son is 30, he has come in this line. And I think in most of the cases we feel that the adoption has been very, very fast. By this, I would also like to add that the government also has been working very hard on these schemes. I was just trying to see the number of schemes run in agriculture by the government in which the industry also participates. There are almost about 26 missions or schemes which have been done by the government. I cannot list the names here. But basically, they cover a lot of sectors which are of importance to agriculture. Primarily, it would be on water conservation, on education, on skill development, business enhancement, drought, financial aids for poor vulnerable farmers, FPOs, beekeeping, price support, and for drones, nano Didi. These are some of the missions that have been done by the government. And in all these, we find that a lot of private companies and corporates have been part of it. We, as part of CCFI, Crop Care Federation of India, which is an association of 50 Indian companies, have been projecting, we along with our members at every forum, that we are there to side with the government and to see that the missions or the objective of the government is followed in totality. We have been seeing these schemes being implemented. We make it a point that in every farmer training program that we do, we first try to list these activities to see that they are being broadcasted and told to the people at large. We also involve a lot of times government officials from the state universities and from the state department so that these schemes are better known. I mean, offhand, it will be very difficult for anybody to recap these schemes and to tell them what is relevant, but going to a particular area which is drought prone or which has got a water problem or whatever, these schemes can be implemented, but some schemes are very, very common. For example, insurance scheme, Bima scheme that has been there, skill development, FPOs have been a very regular involvement of all the people out here. And we feel that over the time, the reception has been pretty good. And we feel that private sector has been also part of this. Though there is no extra incentive given to the corporate sector for following these schemes, but we have been involving our people, educating them, and telling them that these schemes must be availed by you rather than being on paper. But the other part, I'll just mention, which is not my field, but drone, which you have mentioned here, a few practical difficulties that we faced during the locust attack in Jaisalmer area. We camped there for 7-8 days. All our members contributed free chemicals to stop the invasion of locust. And few difficulties which we found few years back, may not be now, I must recap those. Number one was that the charging points were not there. Running on batteries, this equipment which is quite heavy, charging points are not there. So after one sortie, the drone came back and they had to be rushed to a nearest charging point to get the charge. Number two was that the chemical used, the trials were done even by CIBRC. The recommendation was the same chemicals used for ground spray are recommended for aerial spray. There has to be a difference in terms of dosages, in terms of coverage, in terms of molecule minute size. So I personally feel that the recommendations which are valid here may not be in all times valid for the drone. That's one. Number three, we also observed data that the women who were involved with this, in drone didis, etc., they had worked for only about 2 months in a year. The idea being that they were using mostly for nano-urea or for fertilizers, they were hardly used for pesticides. So keeping this in mind, the utility of the drones, which was costing about 10 lakhs, out of which subsidy was about 8 lakhs, and 2 lakhs were paid by the owners. They were supposed to keep a team of 3 people and to move from one place to another. Being heavy equipment to transportation in those rural areas from one point to another to cover the land holdings which are very, very small was a difficult task. You may like to update me on the situation. This is what we observed in the field during our trials with the drones. Thank you.
Thank you, Harish. And you brought out 2 or 3 interesting perspectives, right? So firstly, the Indian farmer being more receptive to technology, and that is extremely encouraging. The second, you said there are pushes by the government, the corporate sector to drive adoption, which is good. But towards the end, you did call out what are the ground level challenges in terms of actually making this a reality. Ajay, in your mind, anything else you think the government or the corporate sector could do? Maybe they are already addressing some of the challenges mentioned here, or some more initiatives that you think are relevant?
Yeah, so I think this is a very pertinent question. How does those challenges get overcome, and what are the challenges? You know, digital agriculture, we all know, everyone is gung-ho about it. I mean, let's convert agriculture to digital. But there are a lot of ground challenges which are there. And India being such a vast country, it is so difficult to manage. I'll give you an example. Just imagine how many land parcels would be there in a state like Himachal. Just a wild guess. I'll tell you, there are more than 1 crore land parcels in Himachal itself, across 12 districts only. It's a very small state. Now imagine the magnitude when it comes to Tamil Nadu or Uttar Pradesh or any other large state like Rajasthan. So data creation, enabling data sets, that becomes the first challenge with the governments. Let's talk on the government level, the central government level first. Data, they've realized it. It's not that I'm the first one who's telling that. They really realize it, and they've already initiated an initiative for the digital agriculture. That's AgriStack, which you all know by the name. So it's trying to integrate a lot of data points, starting with the land digitalization. It is also trying to, get all the data which is there for regarding the crops, what kind of sowing is there, what kind of crop increase, decrease is happening, all sorts of things, what kind of applicability is there. So those kind of things are there. So this is a real challenge. Practically, if you see, it's very difficult to manage. Land ownership changes, people pass it on to the family, kins. There is different crops. I'll give you another example. In Haryana, there was a project that I did where it was basically changing from crop shift from paddy to maize, because water tables was depleting, and sir mentioned about water also. That was very, it's a grave concern for the government. So they wanted to make them shift to maize. And with every uh, crop practice, which is like seeding, sowing, tilling, and harvesting, there was incentives for the farmers. The data could not be collected because there was no reporting of the data. It's so difficult in India to collect data, so we require lots of digital tools. That's why a digital tool is very important, whether it is AI or it is a app-based system. But yes, it has to be uniform and it has to be integrated. The next thing, and there are initiatives which are there with governments also. Say Maharashtra has been doing a very phenomenal work in digital agriculture. The entire land is, digitally mapped. You have geotagging for each of it. You can get all sorts of data for a lot of crops, not for all because it changes. But yes, one good example is Maharashtra. But accessibility from a farmer's perspective, uh, accessibility and applicability is very important. When you go with digital tools, we say, boss, there is something that we are going to digitize your data. He doesn't understand why it is applicable to me. He is living on the same land, he is doing the same cultivation. What on earth will change if you digitize it? So we need to make him understand, boss, this is how. Say, for example, insurance. The crop cutting experiments was really in a very petty state. Till the time the government decided that yes, let's try to have a satellite-based and a drone-based surveys to be done. What used to happen was that in the same village where there was a flood or a drought, one guy would get a lot of incentives or other insurance, rather the other one would not get it because of his relationship with the Patwari. So there was a lot of anomalies, there was a lot of backlogs, there were lot of ghost entries. Those all kind of challenges were there. And the other part in digitization is the ghost entries part. We all know about ENAM. We know how difficult it was to implement ENAM, E-National Agriculture Mandi. It is still, now the version 2 has been launched after the learning. But yes, managing that data becomes very important. So accessibility is one thing. The second part is applicability. Now, how do you make the farmer realize that this is applicable to your field and it is going to yield you some benefit? If you can prove, say, in case of, say, regenerative practices, I worked with one of the startups who is into regenerative practice and generating carbon credits from it. And because the farmer knows that, yes, ultimately I'm going to get the money which is coming from carbon credits is going to come to me. Say 80% is going to come to me. So that model works very well with the farmer. He knows that I'm going to get monetary benefit, I'm going to get benefits in my farming operations, in terms of yields also, and in terms of the output that I'm getting, also monetary benefits. So that is where the applicability becomes very easy for him. In case of drones also, once or twice he does it, then he realizes, boss, yes, this is better option rather than going for a manual labor, which is becoming very difficult to manage in lot of states, lot of regions. So applicability becomes very important. You have farmer training schools. A lot of it is there. ICR is doing it. The state universities are doing. But they're not integrated. I was talking to one of the deans of a university today. The main challenge that they were facing was that, they have good programs, but the farmers, how to reach the farmers? Farmers are very far away. So this brings to our next thing is, which is like e-extension. Extension workers is also very scarce in number. The government is running lots and lots of deficit in terms of good trained manpower for extension workers. So they are not there. And that can be a good, this challenge can be sorted out with digital tools, digital applications, giving them what kind of applicability is there, and then integrating it with the mainstream system. You can't do it on a piecemeal basis. So that's my take on it.
Thanks, Ajay. And I think you articulated the need from a farmer's perspective. In the sense, if something is economically viable, if something is economically remunerative, their willingness to adopt is much higher. And as you can imagine, not all of these initiatives will fall in that bucket. So in that context, we spoke about what government is doing, we spoke about what private sector is doing. Is there anything that they can come together to do to kind of increase the adoption, especially in the use cases which are not that economically viable? And or are there any policy reforms, regulations needed to drive this, to drive further adoption in this space, as per in your experience?
From a regulatory perspective, if you ask me, I'll again come back to where I left, was the extension part of it. You know, although it is a area between regulatory and implementation, but you know, that needs to be strengthened a lot. That's the first part, because you know, farmer is interacting, he doesn't know who is the Secretary of Agriculture, who is in the government. For him, the guy who comes to his field is the guy he is interacting with. So that's why that part needs to be strengthened. So I worked in Himachal on some World Bank projects. We suggested them, boss, why don't you have a kind of a digital module, say for beekeeping. So there were experts in Nani University who were experts of beekeeping, and they had lots of ideas of beekeeping, but they can't travel everywhere. So you need to have, say, digital extension module for that, give their farmers training from time to time, let them revise it, have some certification courses. So agriculture universities need to, the second thing comes that agriculture universities need to refine their modules. They need to incorporate some vocational courses which helps the youth, the farmers, in order to have a meaningful, a gainful output out of their agricultural operations. Right now, there's a lot of outflow from agriculture. So strengthening their pricing is one part. The other part is enabling them to get access to higher prices, better markets, that's another thing. So when we do this, they get they understand what they are doing. If they have to say, do a crop shift, they will not do until unless they understand that, yes, this is applicable for me. This is remunerative for me. So if you have to shift from a paddy to a maize, you have to tell them, boss, this is why you need to shift. After 5 years, the water will be not be there. Or you start growing, say, medicinal crops, which is very pertinent for you. So the regulatory changes needs to happen at that level where the farmer gets benefited. The farmer is at the center stage. The second thing that I believe is that, you know, the quality of seed material, that needs to improve a lot. You know, in the first half presentation, one of the speakers said that our productivity is very low. Any crop that you take, even if we say we are the largest producer, but we are not the highest productivity in India. That is the gap that I see where regulation, or rather the research part, can actually fill in. You know, there is no commercialization of very good seeds. I come from Rajasthan Agriculture University. I did my graduation there. My university was known for creating the best of cumin seeds for the country. There were so nice breeders there, but those never saw the ground. No one could commercialize that because the university does its own part, the rest part is not being done. So that is why commercialization needs to be done, and there you need to have an enabling infrastructure. Maybe a separate entity needs to be created. Like EPIDA is there for exports, you need to have something for supporting the National Seed Corporation for commercialization of this research which is being done from agriculture universities. That's very important. Second part is, from a regulatory perspective, we have just seen in terms of fertilizers, in terms of maybe spurious pesticide also, I think a lot of people are suffering here. That needs to be controlled properly. There has to be good, detrimental steps for keeping it down, and quality assurance needs to be done at every step. I think last part is, from a regulatory space, is that the promotion of biologicals. We need to have some strong fundamentals, strong checking for biological products which is being given in the market, and then probably it works out very well for the farming community.
Thanks, Ajay. I think you make a point about how academia can play a more important role, both from an education standpoint, but also from an R&D standpoint. And that's where probably the private sector could also work with academia in addition to the government to take that to market. Tajender, from your viewpoint, anything more on some of these partnerships that come to mind?
Yes, I agree with Ajay ji on the awareness among the farmers and the problem farmers are facing. As you know, about India is having about 140 million of farmers, and about 80% of the farmers are small and marginal farmers. Means having not more than 2 hectares. So the number one thing is approaching to the cost of this IoTs and other support system which government is providing. They are not accessible to the small farmers. So creating some large groups or promoting the startups to come forward to help those farmers so that they, these IoTs and AI can reach to the small farmers. So this is the one thing. Another thing, awareness of the farmers. Like Ajay ji said, awareness should be given to the farmers so that we are providing the tools to them, but they don't know how to use it, how to go forward with it. So training programs are given by the universities, from the KVKs and the government. But the practicality of that training programs, whether they are going to understand it or not, the skill development is they are acquiring or not. So that is the question. So for that, we should have, government should have such kind of training programs that are practically possible, like the piloting the drones, how to drive the drones. Special people are driving it, but if some kind of young generation in the villages, they are trained how to drive the drone, so they are able to means implement the things in their own village at least. So this is the gap which need to be fulfilled. And another thing is outcome-based support system, like carbon credits. Ajay ji mentioned carbon credits. Another thing, we can go for optimum use of fertilizer. When a farmer do optimum usage and give the output according to the proper geographical area, so that can means support from the government side can be given to him to promote these kind of activities. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Tajender. You towards the end, you talk about an important point, and I think Ajay ji, you also referred to it, saying historically our productivity has been very low. Part of it is the quality of inputs haven't been of the highest order, but part of it is also because we've not been following the best practices. In today's day and age, it's very easy to overcompensate, saying I want to increase productivity, so I will go overboard in terms of fertilizer usage, to the point Tajender ji mentioned, or I will irrigate the farm a lot more. So sooner rather than later, that will start impacting sustainable practices. Harish ji, in your experience when you've been in the farms, what kind, is that a challenge where farmers are going overboard in terms of input, which could impact sustainability? If yes, what kind of training, what kind of awareness you think is needed so that this balance is restored? Historically, we've been balanced, but what is the scene today, and what do you think are ways we can solve for that?
Just to add what Ajay has said, the total number of land banks, land holdings in India, including small and large and medium ones, is about 80 crores. I mean, you talked about Himachal, one state, all India, the figure would be about 80 crores, which would include large farms also, small farms also. The average size would be less than 1 acre or whatever, which is fine, but we have 80 crore land banks with the farmers in India. Now, what has been happening, that we have been working on training. Now, you cannot depend upon government for do all the training part. They've been doing their bit, they've been giving schemes, they've been giving doles, they've been giving financial aid, that's fine. But in terms of the industry and the corporate sector, what we have been seeing and what we have been doing are on 3 aspects. One is safety and health. For example, this is one area where we are very, very clear that we must do something so that there is no risk to the farmer in terms of his health or to his environment or to his cattle. Number two, we also recommend safe practices. Like we talk about safe and judicious use of chemicals or use of fertilizers or whatever, which is as per the recommendation or package of practices by the state government. We would not recommend even a gram more than that. And number three would be to avoid the misuse. For example, misguided people are being misguided on certain aspects, which I'll take up later, which is not part of the discussion directly, but I think the audience here and more need to know about it, which is basically the misuse of these things. Second is about the productivity and efficiency. As was being told that the productivity is very, very low, we do agree. But I would also like to tell you that the figures from China and elsewhere are partly fudged. Do not go by their figures in totality, because it is a country which is under an iron curtain. The figures about production and yield which have been shared by them may not be absolutely correct. So it is not to dishearten the Indian farmers or to dishearten what our people have been doing. We have been feeding 140 crore people, feeding with 80 crore people over the years with free rations, whatever. We have a surplus of food grains. So I think the productivity is low, I do agree, but we have been talking on three things. One is to increase the yield. Now, area is not going to increase, area is almost constant. So we are working on increasing the yield per unit area. Number two is the adoption of innovation. Innovation and invention are two things which have been misunderstood all these years. And what we talk about is innovation is improving on the systems which are existing there. We are not talking about discovery or whatever, which has been supposedly done by the MNCs abroad, not in India. But then I personally feel that innovation is something which we harp upon, and we feel that Indian companies are doing pretty well, whether they are seed companies, fertilizer companies, or pesticide companies, or even farm machinery. They've been doing a lot of innovation, a lot of jugaad, as you can call it, which has been helping the farmer. Third thing is to improve the management knowledge. For example, dissemination of knowledge, whatever, is being done by the universities, is done by the companies, is done by the government departments, and this is something which we do it now and again, every time, and we also insist upon that this should be done in local language. We have been facing this problem because we do not know where will our material go. We have, for example, to tell you that a leaflet which goes along with our bottles and the packaging, which is in 9 or 10 languages, which can be seen and read by anybody, any farmer across the country. Third is, of course, talking about the environment and impact. Now, this is one area we try to educate them. It's a very nascent area. One is disposal of containers. That's something which people have been worried about, and we also tell them that they should be disposed of in a particular manner. I will not give you the details now. But earlier, what used to happen during 30, 40 years back, bigger containers of 25 liter in pesticides used to come in aluminum containers. And believe me, I was working for a multinational. They were all washed and used by the milkmen to give milk. This was about 25 years back. Beautiful containers, the cost of chemical would be same as the cost of the container. And they were also used for aerial spraying in cotton, in sugarcane, which was reusable, not supposed to be reused, but they were used. And third is, of course, the support policy of government to support all these initiatives. And lastly, I would like to add here IPM. IPM is something which has been talked about at all the forums, and we feel this has been working well. But to come back to the question of creating awareness, we feel that CCFI and their members, we take pride in saying that loud and clear that we are the only organization which has been giving these safety kits to all the farmers free of cost for the last decade. And we feel that we have a data bank of all these so-called farmers, or maybe their families or their contract labor. We have their Aadhaar cards, we have their mobile number, we have the details, what they grow, and we can also be getting in touch with them during the season to advise them on their advisory, whatever. We do these training programs with the universities, we do them also in the farmers' fields, and we personally feel that a lot of education which has been given to them has been very, very useful. But I think at this forum, which will be the right forum to talk about the perception that we carry, and that is what we've been observing all these years, has been, I would like to address this not to the farmers. Farmers have been educated, and we feel from their level of IQ they have grown. But I think the major misconception is between the consultants, the bureaucrats, the technocrats, students, colleagues, and even housewives. There are certain things which have been absolutely like myths, we can call it. I will not talk about 4 major issues, which I think you can possibly make a note of it and discuss it in any forum. Number 1, the myth that we talk about, which is to be discussed here, is about use of excessive pesticides. We have been giving recommendations as per the package of practices. Absolutely, farmers have been using it. And yet, India today, among all the developing countries and developed countries, is using only 380 grams per hectare of the chemicals. 380 grams per hectare, I'm repeating this figure for your benefit, which is in terms of tonnage would be about 43,000 tons annually in terms of technical usage. If you take China, it is using 11 kg per hectare. We are using 380 grams per acre. It should shame on them to use so much of chemicals, but I think this is one figure which has been shared by the government officially, and we know about this. Number two, a perception again, which has been a misperception, is about the residues. Everyone, every forum talks about residues. Indian food is not safe, there are a lot of residues. We have data from PUSA Institute for the last 9 years. We have been sharing them. I'm grateful to the people from the ministry and from the PUSA Institute to have shared this data. We have shared data on all the crops, right from grain crops, fruits, pulses, vegetables, tea, spices, milk, etc. That the figure is 2.2%. Remember, repeat this, 2.2% of the samples drawn, which is running into a few lakhs, are above the MRL value. That means the Indian food is absolutely safe for eating raw or cooked. Number three is, of course, my favorite subject, which has been countered at a lot of forums, but I think today there's nobody to counter me here, is to talk about spurious pesticides. India makes quality. Let me repeat that. Indian companies, including multinationals, they make quality. They have their own plants here, their own manufacturing units, which are, I would say with pride, Indian manufacturers have better facilities than the MNCs, who are operating through third-party or tolling facilities. They don't have their own investments out here. We are propagating Make in India as per the government policy towards Atmanirbhar Bharat. And that's what I can say with pride, that we have, through RTIs and also through the answers in Parliament on questions raised by a lot of colleagues, we find that the word spurious is not in the act at all. The major act has no such word as spurious. It is only misbranded or whatever. And this figure, for your benefit, you can make a note of it. It has been answered in Parliament by Mr. Tomar, is 1.174% of the samples have been found to be misbranded, not meeting specifications. There's no word as spurious, so please go with this clear mind in your thought that there's nothing like spurious in this country. We have been exporting to almost 167 countries, equivalent to about 43,000 crores of material, with not a single rejection in quality. Not a single rejection in quality. That's something which we're proud of. People talk about rejections in basmati, people talk about rejection in something else. We have filed RTIs and we have got a feedback saying that the usage, they have not been able to give us any data on what has been rejected, what has been the compound, what have been the chemicals used. So we personally feel that is only to malign the industry, which of course we take a major offense on this. Lastly, the quality that we talk about, we have been saying in different forums, testing has been done repeatedly by all the companies. We have our own R&D centers, we have our own technocrats, own agronomists, and people who have been doing this work, and we can take pride in saying that Indian companies, whether fertilizer companies or seed companies or even pesticide companies, have their own research and R&D and development centers where we feel that the quality matches global standards. And lastly, I can only say that Indian food is very safe. What you're eating here and what you're storing and what you're giving to farmers and what you're giving to the people as doles is a very safe food in India as compared to other countries where the percentage is much, much higher, though the population is much lesser there. We still feel that we've been doing a fairly good job out here. The farmer training program that we've been seeing and doing in the field, we are only not doing like giving demonstrations or by doing theoretically. Yes, we don't use chemicals. When you're doing a demo in a society like this, we are only doing with using water. We have a crowds of almost about 500, 600 farmers here who are trained, who are dealing in an interactive session with us. We are asking questions, they are asking questions, and we are able to pacify them to a large extent. We also have a large amount of video films, what you call them, spots of about 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, on different aspects. We are talking about the adoption of, can I take little time? Okay. The adoption of the safety factors right from the time he buys from a dealer shop till the time he takes it home, till the time it comes disposal of container. How to make a solution, how to spray, how to use the maybe drones also, and also to use the normal sprayers that are used out here. We've been training not only the farmers, but also training their contract labor, which is the major thing to happen. These days, big farmers don't spray on their own at all. I've been observing it. It's a major change in the last 30 years that they've been using the contract labor, which has been trained by us. And we are seeing that for the last 7 years, let me share with you, there's not been a single inhalation case which has been reported to us, and not a single death that we know of. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Harish ji. I think you touched upon a lot of topics where farmers have been trained. Specifically, Vanshika, anything from a sustainability standpoint and balancing productivity from your side as closing thoughts?
I think my point of view comes from a very grounded lens because our biggest two realizations from the time we've spent working has been number one, that as Ajay sir also mentioned, that we give farmers of what to use where they already know what to use, but do we actually tell them why to use it and how to use it? Are there people, are there trained workforce telling them how to use it? So that is how this has become like a primary focus for us, and that's how we started with such schools where we're partnering with state agriculture universities and creating specific SOPs, where we're making courses which are vocational courses where people come and understand agri-business behind it. Because while we work mostly in drones, it becomes very important, as sir also mentioned, that safety is a very important point. While we're already addressing it, it becomes more important to make sure the usage, the SOPs, what kind of chemicals can go inside of the drone, is the content right, is the formulation right about it. That is how the team of agronomists and everyone behind are working in it. The second most biggest realization that has come to us while we've spent working, we've seen a very big reverse migration. I think Tajender sir mentioned about it, that we need people who can actually teach farmers of how things are going to happen. And we are making such courses where we teach these digital advisors during these courses, where we tell them how to inform a farmer about how they can use right chemical dosage, because anything will be tied to the unit economics in the end. A farmer, if he is aware that if he uses less chemical on the same farmland and still gets a better yield, then he would definitely adopt it. As sir also mentioned initially, that farmers are very receptive, they're already aware about everything that is going on. I think awareness is just a rule of knowing. More than being aware, there has to be capacity-led training, such programs that if we lead and we have based on capacity building, that's how it's going to change the perception. Because farmers are already aware and they want to adopt it. And that's what we've seen as a reverse migration. A lot of people who used to think that they want to go out in a city and work are coming back to farmlands and farms where they're adopting all of these technologies. They want to take these things up because farming is no more something that they wouldn't want to do. They would 100% want to do. And just to put a thought to it with my thought, that if we have better data, if we have better systems, and if we have better skilled workforce, then I believe that India is not just adopting agriculture, but we can definitely set global benchmarks around it. Thank you.
Thanks, Vanshika, for that closing thought. I think it is with optimism that we need to view the future. Uh, just summarizing a few takeaways from my lens. One, farmers being more receptive is obviously good news. Farmers and the reverse migration point that Vanshika just brought out just means you have more educated, more skilled, more aware farmers. Uh, Third, Ajay mentioned this, the fact that they are more economically savvy and they understand what ROI means, makes conversations a lot easier. And last but not the least, it's now the job of the industry, the government, to start explaining both the why and what is in it for them, becomes the critical point in adoption of all of these new technologies. So to that extent, I think clear action items for the industry, but also optimism in terms of the lack of inhibition of farmers to try. So that's from our side as the panelists. Appreciate all the inputs. It's been great moderating this session and for all the insights. Thank you very much. And thank you, ICN, once again.